Gonna go live on there and then you'll see me. So we are now live on the Facebooks. Hello, Facebook peoples.
Oh.
So
I can't find
I
my
was just, I was just seeing this post. They're talking about why do I feel compelled to wave goodbye on Zoom calls? Like I never wave when I'm leaving a room in real life. Like, bye guys.
Totally. Like they won't understand.
They won't know that I'm leaving, so I've got to wave to let you know. Okay, I'm okay. So I am now live on Instagram.
Great. Okay. You're live on Instagram. Yes. Gorgeous.
Okay, let me turn everybody down.
I'm requesting.
There she is.
I just great.
Wait, live video ended. Why did it end? Oh Lord, y'all bless my heart. I do this every week, and every week there's something new. I promise I'm somebody's auntie on these.
But you
platforms.
know what? This time next year, we're all gonna have it under control.
Pros. Okay, so I have joined Instagram Live again. So I need you to request.
Great. Okay, and I've joined. How do I request?
Hello, Cass on Facebook. Hello. So that you know that I'm there.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm also live on YouTube. I don't even know what that looks like. This is my first time doing that.
Can you?
I'm getting all fancy.
Oh, it says ended.
Refresh it again.
Okay.
Maybe.
Refresh. Yes, I've joined you. Looking down. Great. Yes, I've requested it. Here I am. Great.
Excellent.
You know, people are getting their coffee and whatever. So you guys, we're all making ourselves comfortable.
We're all getting so comfortable.
Oh, it's going to be on here.
There she is. Okay, so now your turn sideways, FYI.
Oh,
on Instagram.
Boy. Here we go. Am I down as low as I'll go? Great.
Okay, let's make sure. Volume down, volume down. Over here, volume down, over here. Excellent. Let's get everything set up.
It's my mic's still gonna pick that up, right? A little bit. Oh, I can't get my volume to turn down on my cell phone.
Okay, but I don't have any feedback right
You
now.
don't? Okay, great. Great. You're getting to see a real good shot of Tanner on Instagram.
Hey.
Thanks, honey.
Thanks, honey.
What a sweetheart. Thank you, honey.
We are here. Yay, we have done it.
I think so.
We are live on the Facebook. Thank you so much. Feedback. Ray says we sound great on the Instagram. Facebook. Anybody watching on Facebook, let us know. Make sure we got us. Oh wait, I'm hearing myself now.
Oh, you are?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to do it.
That goes down.
How about? I love that the show is now just like, can these two women figure out 4 platforms? It's like we're in an escape room of technology. It's like, hit this, turn that. Everyone can see you. Good. Now we can hear. Wait, my sound just went out. Yeah.
I mean, what is being asked of us during this time is just completely far above and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
but we're rising to the occasion. We're doing something. Okay, we here, so we're doing something. Okay. Okay. All right. I think we are ready. Are we ready? Let's do it. Yes. Thank you. Ray Ray says we can do it. I believe.
Yes. I know. We're getting so much good encouragement. How positive.
I love it. Thank you, ladies. Okay, and this is actually the perfect introduction into today's coaching conversation. Y'all, welcome. Thank you for joining us. I am so excited. I've been looking forward to today's conversation because we are talking with my girl, Whittney Millsap.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm so excited about this. But first, I just want to, for those of you all who are new to Coaching Conversation, welcome. Okay, so Coaching Conversation, many of you all know me as an opera singer, which, hey, I do that. I'm also a leadership and life coach, and I just like to talk. So I bring those things together. And I was like, you know what? I know some phenomenal people, and this time, I think is a great time for me to share those people with, the world, basically.
Yes.
And by world, I mean everyone who happens upon this stream.
Yeah. Well, we're putting it out, much like anything in the world. You're putting it out there, and the people who need to receive it will receive.
Amen. And Ashe. That's exactly what shall happen. Yeah. So, Coaching Conversation, coaching is really a conversation that is had, to discover and explore ways to move forward, ways to access that next level that you're achieving, that you're striving for. And as a coach, I listen, I'm curious, ask all the questions and just kind of reflect back, what's going on in the conversation. So I really feel like this is an opportunity, as we do it on a larger scale, we invite the audience to come and join in on the conversation as well. So feel free to drop comments in the box, comments, questions, if you have feedback, curiosities, all of that. Genre said, Whittney.
Hi.
So I like to start by declaring intention. So for me, my intention for today's conversation is one, to connect with my girl, Whittney. Every time I talk with Whittney, I am left with joy and just a little bit better. So first of all, it's an opportunity to talk with my girl, Whittney. And this talk was actually triggered by a conversation that took place on my Facebook news feed and Whittney, remind me, do you remember what the initial topic was? I couldn't remember what the topic was.
I don't remember the topic was. Somebody had posted, I think it was like a GIF of Kelly from Insecure. And I love her so much. Her character saying something or doing something. And so I have been watching the show and I was just like, oh, I love that character. And then Marsha and I started talking about how much we love that character and how we love certain women characters and narrative.
Yes. Yeah. And I saw that conversation and I was like, hold up. I was like, you're one of my favorite women in entertainment. And to see the dynamic of that conversation happening, I was like, I want to have this conversation on live.
I am thrilled to do it. Finally, from my couch to everyone's ears. Because I feel like as I watch TV, that is something that's constantly driving. I mean, that's what drives all of us, right? That's why we find certain content is because of what we're drawn to. And how women are written or represented is always my top commentary on what I'm watching.
Very present to it. Very present to it. So first, okay, so I've told y'all we're talking to Whittney, but let me introduce you to Miss Whittney. So I have known Whittney to be such light and ease to be in her presence. She is hilarious. Okay, this woman cracks me up. Which is useful, at a we met at a comedy theater, so it's helpful. Thank God she's funny because whoa, awkward. So Whitney is hilarious. She is, I mean, you are so intelligent. Like, and I'm sometimes cautious to use that term because it can come across as patronizing, but it is what it is. Like, the girl is smart.
No, I'll take it. And thank you.
Take it. Just light, luminescent, joy, grace. I just love me some Whitney. So Whitney, please, I would like for you to introduce yourself. What do we need? What do the people need to know about you? Who are you? How do you show up in the world?
Oh my gosh. So I'm Whitney Millsap. I love to live is like my biggest thing about me, I would say. And I know that sounds almost kind of like ridiculous, but it's true. Like, my biggest fear is dying, and not because like I will be dead, but because I won't be doing the physical act of living anymore. And the reason why I love life so much is because there's so many choices. Like, you're never boxed in. There's always a way to make a new choice or a change or try a new avenue. Like, there's always an option, and I love having options. I'm a Leo. I want nothing but the best, and the best means give me 6 options. So I would say that's like the biggest thing about me. Like, everything from like plants to teaching to animals. I like things that like grow, that are evolving, that are changing. And I think that comes with like life force, right? Like, we're constantly in a new place than we were. And like, seeing that evolution is just really exciting to me. And then as far as like who I am as a person, I don't know. I feel like I always describe myself as like, I'm a hurricane. Like, on the first meeting, you're kind of like, oh shit, what just happened to me? On the second meeting, you're like,
Exhibit A.
Okay, I think I see some patterns here and like how this person works. So I think, a force, for better or worse, a force for sure. But Jamie, I feel the exact same way. Like, that. I thank you so much for all those amazing compliments. From the moment that we've met, I felt a kindred spirit, because you two are such a woman that I admire. And the fact, like, I hate to define it as woman in the sense of woman versus man, but I also love gender differences. And so I love that like you show up in the world with the same passion and vigor and determination as most things that are attributed to like a male or masculine vibe. And I'm the same way. Like, I very much appear feminine and have a very masculine energy. And I just so love that like you show up in the world and you're like after what you want, but you're welcome to all opinions and ideas. And you're always like sussing out information to get to the truth. And like, I love that about you. And you also have like a super joyous spirit where you're like attracted to things that are bringing you life force too. So I've always felt like such a common kindred spirit with you in that way.
Okay, so listen, 2 things. One, you could totally be like a life coach. I mean, just done. Just let me know, and it's done. 2, we could just sit here and exchange acknowledgement for an hour. It just makes that the show. Yeah. I mean, I have no problem.
Same. What is your sign? What sign are you?
I am a Libra.
Oh my God, that makes so much sense. My best friend, Kara, we lived together. I always say 6 years. It was really 4. I don't know. I make up time. But she's a Libra, and most of her friends are Leos. And so the Leo-Libra connection is like super strong because we both hold loyalty, super valuable, and we're both after like justice in 2 different kinds of ways for like Leos and Libras. But anyways, that makes total sense. Okay, great.
we got somebody said, I love you both. Y'all are seriously both amazing spirits. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So much. I appreciate that. Yeah, I've heard that there's something to this kind of Leo Libra dynamic. And I think we're getting some of that happening, some of that magic happening on stage. So Whitney, what would you say your intention would be for the conversation today?
That's a great question. My intention is to talk about something that I'm passionate about and continue to maybe explore. Like, I'm excited to bring my thoughts and then see sort of what your thoughts are and to see if that expounds my thoughts even further. That's my intention. It's like, I want to bring my truth, and I wonder if when that hits your sounding board, if it creates like a new layer of thought as well. Is that an intention?
It is. The first thing I heard when you said that was expansion.
Okay, and great. Yeah.
Boy, oh boy, is that like, that's like a theme for me this year. And I mean, whether we're all present to it or not, we are all being called to expand in a way that is very uncomfortable for many people. But you know, and I love it. Like, you know, it's so funny. I love the way you described how you love to live, because, you know, what I heard was that there's so much possibility. Yeah. And I thrive off of possibility, so that in those situations where where one might judge it as negative, I get an excitement out of it, because it's like, this is an opportunity for transition, for growth, for expansion.
And it's not to say that these things are easy. Like, it doesn't mean that they're just like, woo, but it's like,
I'm totally like a masochist. Like, expansion, let's do it.
Exactly. Where it's like, I hate change and I need to. Like, that's
let's stretch. Yes. Well, I feel like this is actually a way to go into, like, to dive into this conversation too. I'm also not one with small talk and subtlety, so I just kind of dive. But it brings me to, you know, as we're talking about these conversations about hard change and expansion, you know, I mean, one cannot help but to be present to the major changes that are being required in our industry of entertainment, right? And especially, you know, as it comes to conversations around women. And, you know, we had the Me Too movement that sparked this no more attitude. Like, okay, you know, we've tolerated, we've accepted, we've, you know, worked around, we have contorted, we've done everything that, you know, just to have a place, because I must be here. That's who I am. Right. And so I've navigated all of this stuff, but we had that moment of declaration where it's like, we're not doing this no more. And then we're seeing it happen with the Black Lives Matter movement presently, in such a way to where, you know, and I've been a part of this too, just really calling out practices that before, I mean, people probably didn't even really realize it was happening, because we've just become so adept at,
right, it's been the norm,
you know, making it work. Exactly. It's become the norm and we make it work. So I don't know what question is in there, but I feel like that statement, I'm curious about your experiences. Maybe this is the conversation, your experiences prior to the Me Too movement and to the time that we're in now, and how you were experiencing the, you know, in tarot, it's the Tower card, you know, like systems and structures are crumbling, right? And it's this discomfort that we're talking about, like things that we've known, the norm, like all of these things, it's crumbling. Yeah. And it needs to crumble. And also it's very different and very new. So I'm curious as to what your experiences have been prior, and how you are experiencing all of this disruption and chaos really at this time.
I would say, like, well, it's interesting, because I think that there's a part of me that is myself, but then you have to look at it and you're like, well, if I zoom out, am I a product of the society, right? So what I mean by that is, for myself, I was raised, my parents were divorced, and but I mostly lived with my dad when I was younger, and he was like a firefighter, hazmat rescue training, sort of. He went on to have his own business, but that's like the field he was always in. And so I grew up in this real kind of like band of brothers kind of mentality. And so there were a lot of like it was like groups of men, right? And I was an only child, and so like that's what I saw. So it's always been interesting that I've been raised to have the mindset of a man, but when I got to the world, I am physically a woman. And so it was like I never was taught to question like what's mine or what I should be allowed to have, or you know what I mean? But then when I got to the world, people are like, oh, check yourself, you're a woman, and like only these things are available to you, which of course I would not accept. So I think for my own experience, it's been showing up and being like, I refuse to be denied, and continuing to like push forward. And I would say that prior to the Me Too movement, that had to be more strategic. And now since the Me Too movement, less strategic, even though it's like, is that the type of person I would have been if I didn't have to fight? So my point to that is like, am I a product of the system, and that it was a system full of almost like not adversaries, but like where I had to like fight for my position, right? And like if I hadn't been put in that position, would I have maybe had a different kind of mentality towards it? And the reason why I bring that up is because I think that it's an unfair box that women are put in, because just like there are, I'll take improv, for example. When I coach female improvisers, and that can be in a class that's specifically just for women, or it can be in a class that is mixed men and women, I always put out there that it's like, if there's someone who is trying to like overpower you, if you have a guy on stage, even if he's well-intentioned and he's overpowering you, not listening to you, you have several options to you, and it's whatever you feel most comfortable with. I call it being the smarter improviser. How do you stand up for what your want is on stage while still making the other person look good? Or if you don't feel comfortable to do that, you can always exit a scene. And so for me, I'm always gonna like get in there and like hang on to it. Like, I will not let you back me off this stage, but that shouldn't have to be what women have to do. And like, that's where I think that it turns into like inner shame for women, is because they're like, well, that's, you know, like if I don't stand up for myself, it's my fault that this happened to me. And it's oh, you shouldn't be put in a position. So while I'm the type that's the route I take, because I refuse to be denied, like I'm just like ready for it, like I'm up for it. I don't think women should be put in a position to have to be up for it. And I definitely like always want to get the message out that like, because people are different, whether you're a man or a woman, you're like, some people are more conflict averse than others. Yeah. And I think that shouldn't be gendered, right? Like that it shouldn't be like, oh, well, you were a weak woman who didn't stand up for yourself, so you deserve to be bulldozed. Like, you shouldn't be put in that position, is my biggest point, is like that the culture needs to eventually change. And until that happens, I want women to know that they are just as powerful, they are just as important, whether they choose to stand up to that person on stage or they choose to exit. Like the fact that they are choosing their own boundary makes them powerful in themselves. Does that make sense?
Girl, you are just up here just preaching to the people. Oh wait, hold on. Oh, there we go. Instagram. It paused on Instagram for a second. I was like, oh no. Instagram needs to get the goodies. You know, I mean, this is a conversation, I guess, and which is one of the things that's exciting to me about this time, just in general, because it's a conversation about no longer accepting oppression in any form.
Yeah.
Right. So that I'm listening to you talk about the Me Too movement, and you know, I think about the conversations and the demands that are being made during this Black Lives Matter movement. It's like really what the call is. In my opinion, what it all comes down to is humanity. It is a call towards the restoration of humanity. Yes. And we have been living in a society of distorted masculine energy for far too long, right? Yeah. And so what I hear you describing is basically we've all been in survival mode. Yes. And some of us survive, some of us, because of our personalities, we survive better. And this is across industry. Right. Yeah. And so we're talking about the entertainment industry, but really across industry, when you have this kind of dominant, hyper masculine, patriarchal, you know, paternalistic energy like on you, it's like it can be smothering to other ways of being that have been attributed to feminine energy. And what many of us, what many presenting women find ourselves having to do just to occupy space is to lean into that masculine energy even more. Exactly. And I love how you identified, because it wasn't until recently that I identified that attribute in myself. Like, I do have a lot of masculine energy, like, that I can stand and be present and have this kind of strength that's usually attributed to that. And also that curiosity, and maybe this is an exercise too. I think that this could be a fun exercise, but like, what does my career, what does your career look like? Who do I then show up as when I'm no longer surviving, when I'm no longer having to scramble just for a place, but when the place is there, when I'm not fighting, when I am being all of myself? Like, what does that industry look like? And I think that's part of what we identified in Insecure. Because you've got Issa, who, I mean, she's had the elbow too, right? Like, she had, and we talk about intersectionality, right? She's a woman and she's a Black woman. And so she had, oh God, why am I going blank on her show from YouTube? Awkward Black Girl. Oh yeah. So she had Awkward Black Girl. So that was the precursor to Insecure.
Oh, cool.
And
I'll have to check it out.
It was like, yes, it was a takeoff hit on on YouTube, like before it was even really a thing. And I actually just saw a post. She's phenomenal. She's hilarious, and she has that boss energy, right? So she has been able to flip it and then to create spaces for other. I mean, really diversity just in general. Women, Black people, other people of color. Like, she's doing all of that. And so we see characters like Kelly in Insecure. And I would love for you to share some of the thoughts genres, which is Marsha. She says, Awkward Black Girl is the best. It really is. And it's worth
I'm going to check it
hilarious. Out. It's worth going back to check out.
I love her. But so yeah.
I would be interested for you to share, again with us, just some of the reflections that you have specifically on Kelly's character and how she's written and how she's,
God. So I'm like, I just got my HBO subscription during this time. I'm like catching up on
so many.
Oh yeah. And so I am like really like laying in there. But anyway, so what I love about Kelly is like one of the lines that immediately because she's very funny. And so at the beginning when Kelly is introduced, because she's kind of a tertiary character, relief and sort of like the drama that's going on. But where it really hit for me is like, this character is very dynamic, and I'm excited that they're starting to let her dynamic show, is a very specific moment where, Issa's going through something and Kelly gives her some like blunt advice that's kind of like harsh. And Issa was like, "Do you hear yourself?" And she was like, "Yes, girl, all the time. I've got a podcast." And I was like, yes, I love that. Like, I love a character who takes exactly what they've been given and they don't apologize for it at all. And back there, like, let me heighten this thing that you seem to already think I am. Trust. It is like, I have to live with it all the time and I love it. Like, that's what is my favorite about Kelly. And a lot of female characters that I am drawn to are unapologetic women. Like, that's the biggest thing. It's where, and that's when you were saying, like, what does it look like when we like remove these constraints and when we move forward, what does that look like? And in my mind, what that looks like is less apologizing, less justifying, less like, I'm doing this because, like, sort of thing. And it becomes more like, this is just who I am and this is what I'm offering because this is my experience and it's true. Like, I know my truth gets thrown around a lot, but that's what it is, right? It's like, I'm bringing this to you not for any sort of manipulation, and I don't have to justify why it's here or why it exists in the world or why I think this. I'm putting it out there because it's my experience. And so it's what I have to offer, you know? And I think that that's what I really love about unapologetic women characters. And sometimes they're like the anti-hero for sure. Like Veep, I'm a huge Veep fan. And I think that like, I always get her name wrong. I want to call her Louis Dreyfus. It's Louis, I think. Julia Louis Dreyfus. The lead. I was never a Seinfeld fan because I was more of a Friends watcher. You know, you had to pick. But anyway, so I got to know her through Veep, but I loved that she was, she acts like a man, shows up as a man, and is like, she's just, she's almost, it's satirically rotten, right? Like how she kind of sees the world and views the world, and you know, and at the same time, like she's not necessarily for women either, because women don't get you anywhere in society. So like, I don't know, I just love that, like the satire in that. And Kara, again, my life mate, she and I love that show, and she was like, we were texting lines about it the other night. She was like, I love that character, and I said, yeah, I love her too. And she's like, but is it bad? Because like, obviously her character is like not a good person. And I was like, well, I think that we love the actor who's playing the satire of the character. Like, obviously if this person showed up in real life, this isn't somebody we're hanging out with. It's like that these things are written and said because they're so fucking absurd. And who would ever think that? And the woman playing that is not only brilliant, but she's a woman, like, who is never allowed to act like this on TV, or never allowed to like have this sort of storyline. And I think that's really where it was coming from with Kelly and with Veep, is it's like women, as I had mentioned, like they have to learn a lesson, or they're there to support the male character's journey, or they have to, you know, they maybe do some cool stuff and then they're like, oh, but really I should have been at home and been a mom. Like I need to remember my duties. Like that's usually like the female storyline. It's never just like, fuck you, I want what I want. So what? Like I'm awful, you know, like do that. Like, and I just think that that's exciting, because not that that makes them good people. It's just the fact that like men and women should be allowed to show up and both be equally good or bad. And both of those things should be equal, right?
It's the ability, what I'm hearing from you is it's the ability to be fully human.
Yes. Yes.
Right? Rather than being a caricature of some usually man's imagination, right? Like as we live our lives completely, you know, it's like, I know I could be shitty and I can be, you know, I can be all of those things. So to have the opportunity to have expansive, dynamic female characters. And I think that that's one of the things that resonated about Scandal with Olivia Pope, you know, because it was like, you know, and with Shonda just in general, right? Because it's like, Shonda. I feel like she brought a certain level of humanity to all of her characters that we, you know, we didn't really get to experience before. Like before it was like, okay, this is the good guy. We like that person. This is the bad guy, we don't like him. But then we get in Scandal and it's like Papa Pope. It evolves and it's like, well, Papa Pope runs this, you know, this top secret agency that does these horrible things. But then, you know, he'll go into a monologue and it's like Papa Pope all day. You know, or like Olivia, where it's like she's this badass woman, right? And this is one of the narratives as Black women that we are very present to, the strong Black woman. And I'm personally enjoying the conversations that are taking place to alleviate the weight of that trope, you know, because again, anything that strips us of our full humanity, right? Because as a strong Black woman, it's all a box, right? So as a strong Black woman, I'm not allowed to feel vulnerable. You know, I'm not allowed to, you know, to cry or to
be hurt by something,
or to be hurt or to hurt someone, right? Because it's like you got Olivia Pope and she's she is this badass, you know, whatever handler, and she's, you know, having this affair with this
that
man
she can't cut off. That she's like
that she can't cut off.
Yeah.
Exactly, you know, and so I mean, and people, you know, we have our thoughts and our feelings about the evolution of the character and stuff. Because I was like, where is her gut? Like when we started to get to the end of the series, I was like, where is her gut? So that was a frustration. But even in that, I'm like, she doesn't have to be what I want her to be.
Yes,
and that's the beauty of it, right? Like we've been trained by somebody else's eye, like that this is what the woman is supposed to be. Like you said, if she gets too big,
FedEx delivery happening. And
listen, let's take a pause for FedEx.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I always tell them thank you because it's like they're doing their jobs. Their job is to let me know that people are here. Thank you guys. Thank you. Everybody's got to work.
Everybody, listen. They are on post. They are on post doing their thing. But yeah. Oh wait, let's see. We have a question from Megan in Facebook. Do you think there's an opposite effect too, where strong Black women feel threatening to white people? Oh, I mean, you know, I think that's one of the reasons why that trope was created, right? Like, you know, or it was. So this is just in my opinion, in my view of it, right? So you've got Black women. Whenever a Black woman dissents or expresses non-agreement in any way, you know, you get she's bitter, she's a bitch, she's bossy, she's, you know, and these are attributes that are attributed to women, but especially Black women, because we have a history in this country of having our womanhood stripped away. And you know, if you want to get real about it, it was so that the institution of enslavement could be justified, right? Like we can beat these women because they're not really women. Like we can rape these women because they're not really women, right? So that way of dealing with Black women has not changed culturally. And so we see it play out in the tropes that are attributed to Black women. So you've got this notion. And so there have been times when we all seek to empower ourselves, right? And so this strong Black women narrative, it's more powerful, right? It's more empowering than being considered as a bitter bitch, right? So it's more empowering than that. But again, what that does is that it strips us of being able to be seen in our full humanity. And so, you know, this notion of strong Black woman being threatening to white people, that's exactly what it is. I mean, think of Keisha, right?
Oh my God.
Come on. So Keisha, from the beginning. Now, Keisha, I love Keisha. There are some policies that I just do not agree with her, some narratives that she recycles that I just do not agree with. But the way she has shown up in this pandemic has been very, she has been very clear. No, this is about saving people's lives, and I will do what I need to do from my position of power to make sure that we do that, right? And she's had to butt up with this dude, Brian, who seems to be committed to not showing humanity, right? In regards to making sure that people are protected and healthy and cared for and all of these different things, right? And so, you know, we saw Keisha trying to be diplomatic from the jump, but when it became very clear that he was just not interested in doing anything close to right, she was like, okay, listen, I'm about to put some stuff in place. So she did that. And she wasn't the only one, right? We've got Savannah, we've got Albany, we've got.
If I could jump in, I just read the other night that like the Savannah guy wrote the mayor or whoever who also put in this like mandate was like, it has become very clear that Brian Kemp has not and no longer cares about us or something, like a blatant attack. And yet Brian Kemp isn't coming after him.
He said because Savannah implemented the mandatory masks first. And Kemp's response was, I'm not going to play pandemic politics. Right.
And then he's like filing a suit. Come on, man.
Right. And so then Keisha says, all right, Atlanta, we're about to get this thing under control. Mandated masks, like shut it down. And then we've got other municipalities who have gone and they said, listen, mandatory masks. Mm-hmm. When Keisha got in, he had something to say. And so he said, you know, it's unenforceable. And she said, I said what I said. And I promise you we will enforce it, right? So right after that, he comes and he files a suit. Who does he file a suit against? Savannah implemented the mask mandate first, but he files a suit against this Black woman. And we, you know, and it feels great to have these conversations out loud and in public now, because this is certainly in my lifetime, this is the first time that we have ever had clear, candid, direct conversations around race and sexism and how it shows up in the society. Mm-hmm. And so we've always known, right? We've always known that you've got a narrative around women and you treat women this way, even though we've been gaslit around that, right? We've always known that there's this notion of, oh, strong Black bitch, whatever, how dare you, know your place type of, we've known that. And so now we are in a time and in a season where everybody is starting to see it. And so that when Black women say, this is what he is doing, everybody is like, yo, you're right. Yeah. You know? And so yeah, so all of that to say, Megan, you know, definitely this narrative is threatening to many white people, especially those who knowingly, subconsciously have this belief that women, that Black people, that Black women are supposed to occupy a certain box, like you said, that they have constructed for us. You know, it becomes, you know, it's like they say of oppressor. When the oppressed seek, you know, justice, it feels like oppression to the oppressor. Right? Exactly. So for Keisha to say, it's like, this is uncomfortable for me that you are declaring that, you know, you're going to keep people safe.
I do.
Like for you to say, you know, for you to challenge me is a threat to me. Mm-hmm. And this is a sentiment that many people who have never, you know, this is where this conversation around entitlement and you know, comes into play. These people who have never been questioned in their lives, let alone by a Black woman. And it's like, how dare you? Because like you said before, we had to be very strategic, right? Yeah. Because if we wanted access to possibilities and options and, you know, opportunity, we had to get in there, right? And you can't get in there being like, I'm that bitch. You know, you can't get. They're like, no, that's uncomfortable. I certainly don't want that. You know, so yeah, Megan, it definitely is threatening. But you know, we're in a time, and I love this about what you said, Whittney. How when you're teaching classes, especially to women or to people who are not, who don't do well with confrontation, you know, we are in a time where it's like, no, we are boldly declaring our options. Yeah. And I can choose to continue to get along. And also we've gotten to a place where we're like, it's done. It's done. We're not doing this anymore. We're not doing it anymore.
I feel like too with that, like on that same kind of idea of women in boxes, like I've had a problem with that too, in the sense of that women are expected, you know, of several years ago when the whole like fierce and whatever like thing came out, and yeah, women are expected to like show up, and now we're empowered and we look like this, and it's like, damn it, you're just giving us another box to sit in. Like before it was like, go be the meek woman, and now we're not that. We have to be like strong all the time, and it's like, can we just be like, I'm not asking you to label me at all. I don't need to like show up in any particular way other than what the situation and context warrants, right? Like the whole point that I think people have missed in trying to empower women is that they're just taking them from this box and putting them into this box, so that now women feel terrible. Like before it's like, don't speak unless spoken to. And so you feel awful if you do. Now it's like, you didn't speak up. How dare you?
Yes.
Like, you don't to be here. So it's just like, the point is no one should ever be put in that position, that like, man or woman, but it's only really happening, I feel like, to female identifying. It's different because women were, there's only not two types of genders. Obviously there's lots of genders, but when we're looking at like birth sex, there's two birth sex genders, and yet one of them is more in power than the other, right? Like one of them is seen as like stronger and like has been in charge for a longer amount of time than the other, right? And so I think that this can exist towards other men. Like, again, that's where like toxic masculinity comes in, right? Because you're not appearing as masculine. So I think it's for people across the board. And like, honestly, with we just had binary day, like celebration, non-binary day.
Non-binary day, yes.
Yeah. And so I was, so a lot of my friends were kind of posting about that and like how much gender is a construct. And I do think that that's so interesting that now we're in a time where like it's becoming even more known, and maybe, your newsfeed reflects like your friends. So I feel like my entire world thinks this way. And then you get outside of it and you're like, oh wait, people don't think like me. But it's cool to see.
What's wrong with them?
Yeah. It's cool to see that at least in my immediate tangential circles, right? That like, it seems that everyone's playing with the idea that we don't just have to have these two things, and that there's like so much more to consider. And so I'm hoping that with that, it breaks down what we attribute to masculine and what we attribute to feminine. Mm-hmm. Although that said, here's where it gets tricky for me, is that I love being a woman. Like, I love everything that it is to be a woman. I love how different it is than a man. I like how my brain thinks about things. I like how my emotions react to things. I like dressing up as a woman. I like dressing more masculine. Like, I like playing with clothes. I like playing with makeup. I like my biggest hope is just that everything will be seen as equally powerful, that like one isn't given precedence over the other. Because I've seen you post this before, Jamie, where it's like, I don't want us to all be the same. Like my drive isn't, and maybe I'm taking it out of context. It was something I saw that you posted where you're like, I'm not looking for everybody to be the same. It's that we're celebrating our differences, and that all of those differences they hold equal amount of weight, right? That one isn't more or less than the other. It's that you can look at it's like a rainbow. You look at a rainbow and you're like, these are all great colors. They're all different in their own right. They all bring out different things, but they're colors at the end of the day, right? Right. So I feel like that's how I feel about gender in general, is that I want every person to feel like they can celebrate whatever attributes they are, and however they want to define them, whatever boxes they want to put them in, and that they're able to access all of those without having to give a bunch of explanation or justify it or apologize for it or whatever, like they're just able to show up in the world and not have to consider how the perception of everyone else, that they just get to be their thing without worrying about how are you going to perceive this.
I talk about this notion of, advocating for this notion of being selfish, because especially as women, right? Like we're just like, we're trained to be selfless, and to put everyone above us, and, and all of that. And really what I think about is in terms of our frame of reference, right? Like I think about it as like this lens, and it's like when we're constantly focused outward, like you said, considering whoever they are, in the choices that I make, and how I show up, and how I even feel about myself, and how I interpret what's going on in here. And my concept of being selfish is to prioritize my own lens, and so that all of my choices are made purely from who I am, and that's who I present, and that's who I show up as. My mom on the Instagram said, like Jamie said, the conversation The conversation is about demanding space for our humanity. And that's really what it comes down to, right? Because it's baffling to me how violent people become around things we don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
Like not even like it's not even like an assault. Like it's not even like a projection or any like the mere existence of somebody or something that doesn't exist within the box that you're used to, and people become violent. Like that's the thing that I don't understand. But this is it seems it is a very simple concept, to allow for humanity. It's not been easy. Let me see. Yes, this reminds me of a trans friend sharing the trauma of going to a gender reveal party and how the family was essentially preparing the road for the child without knowing them. That's, I mean, in the conversation around gender, this is an almost completely new conversation for me. And it's one where I'm like, it don't cost me nothing to something that I learned like a couple years ago that I started saying is like, wow, I really don't have to have an opinion on this, and I really don't have to know about this. And when I release myself from those things, it allows me to be open, to be curious, and to just be in a space of curiosity, free of judgment, right? Like
100%.
I don't understand. I don't know. I'm able to say that and to be clear about it. So I am, because you are an educator. And I love using the term educator because to educe, to draw forth, it means that it's already there within you.
Yep.
And that I am, supporting you and drawing it out. So you're definitely an educator. So as an educator, you've mentioned a few times this desire, we've talked about what does this world look like when we're able to be ourselves. And you mentioned a few tools that you've used in some of your improv classes in terms of letting people know the access they have to different options. And so I'm just curious, like how as women do we go forth and further owning and embracing the options that or even just becoming aware of the options that we have available to us.
I think it's also, we have a real power of like content. So like speaking specifically to, this is just like one section, but getting back to entertainment, I saw it's like a new space show with Steve Carell on Netflix, and like everybody was really excited about it because it has a lot of like big name people. I can't remember the name of it. It's Galaxy something. Who knows? Space Force, I think is it. It's Steve Carell, super nice guy. Like from everything I've seen of him, interviews, whatever, seems like a nice person. But he wrote it or co-wrote it and produced it. And I think the first episode's like 30 minutes. I could barely get through the first episode because there were 4 women that ever come onto screen ever. And one of them is a woman who's chasing lizards and just like can't get them in the box. Like she's just like a dunce. And then another woman, Lisa Kudrow, who's like completely underutilized, has like landed in prison and is just kind of shitty. And then it cuts to his daughter at one point, who literally her line is, oh, Dad, why aren't you here to teach me how to do math? And like cuts, like that's her line. And so, oh shoot, I cut myself. So my point to that is I was just like, oh my God, there are 4 women represented in this first episode. All of them are completely inept. Nobody is contributing to story. And we're following this white male who is having to keep everything together. Like he's the glue that's like keeping this moment together, and we're following his journey and his struggle. And I was like, this story is so tired. Like I am so done with this story of how, again, Steve Carell, great guy. I'm sure he's only using his own experience. He's writing from his experience. But I guess my point is like now is the time to challenge that kind of content. Like for me, and realizing what our options are, it's like, what do we want to see? What do we want to see reflected? And I really do love this movement of amplifying different voices, because I think that also a part of the gender conversation and embracing women, and of course we're using that with an X because it is female identifying, it's like representing coming together and representing that we as a group are important and valuable, and how do we want to see that reflected, and supporting each other, protecting each other, and pushing each other's agendas, I think is really like, those are the groundbreaking things that I see happening right now, and where I see that we have control and an opportunity in this moment to demand something new. Where it's like, this show is so fucking tired.
I love how you said that, because it's like, wait a minute. Yeah, there are just things that we, I remember when I was younger, and there was just certain shows that you just know you're going to watch. And again, this goes back to what we have tolerated and what we have adapted to, really. Because it's like, I mean, who really has wanted to dine on that exclusively forever? I don't know that we ever really wanted to, but it wasn't an option before. It was what we had, right? Mm-hmm. And so to be in a space where we're like, I mean, I remember being, my mom has always been present and aware. And so I remember, like when we were younger, there were certain shows that we wouldn't watch. When my daughter was younger in Nickelodeon, it was always the little white boy who was the lead and who was the this, that, whatever. And she's like, we're not watching that. We're not watching it. She was done with it then. She was like, no, we don't want to do this. And just things that we are waking up to, right? Yeah. Because we've been lulled into this sense of like you said, this is just what we had. But now that we're waking up, it's like, wait a minute, this is the same story, yes, the same perspective, the same narrative over and over and over again. And like you said, now enough is enough. Yeah. Now is a time where in all of our spaces, right? Like,
that's just one example of content, but it's like everywhere.
Well, no, but I'm talking about even in terms of in the entertainment, arena, in all of our in whatever capacity we are in. I'm not in Hollywood, right? Like I'm not there, but I mean, maybe someday.
That's how I see it. When people are like every time we have a silly dad's garage event, it's like, yes, I'm going to buy a gown and I'm going to wear a gown to this because I'm not going to a red carpet anytime soon, but I will make a red carpet wherever I am.
Wherever I am. And so it's like, I'm going to make a red carpet wherever I am, and I'm going to make a change and cause transformation wherever I am. And that is, if we're, and we're content creators, so we have that opportunity to do that, and even in the things that we choose to participate in, we've had a lot of, like, for example, in cartoons, and we've had people who have been voicing characters that now in this new awakening, they're like, oh shit, this man, maybe this is not the thing for me to do. Yeah, maybe I'm gonna step back from this. So we're definitely in that time and that opportunity. Man, Whitney, I knew we were gonna enjoy ourselves, but girl,
I know,
girl,
amazing. I feel
like this needs to be yes.
Oh, I also want to bring up the other thing that hit me a year or so ago, whenever it came out, the Bradley Cooper movie, A Star is Born, with Lady Gaga. And people are like, yeah, it's a remake. And I was like, okay. And what did they remake? And they were like, well, it's this guy who's like down on his luck. I was like, there's nothing to be remade about this. Like, okay, some like washed up man has like had a great career and now he's figuring out who he is, and he needs a young, vibrant woman to like show him the light. It's like, Jesus Christ, I'm so tired of being somebody's Sherpa through their life. It's like, what about my story? You know what I mean? Like, what about what she wants? Like, why does she serve the purpose to just help this washed up man figure out his life? Like, what is the deal? And why do we think that that's important to be retold? Like, it's already what there's nothing new here. This is all the same.
No more of that story.
Exactly.
We're done. We're declaring it here. It's done.
It's time for more Shondalands to like come out and like more complex characters and to also break down toxic masculinity. I know we didn't touch on that, but like I think that that's important too. Allowing
I think we're gonna have to talk again because that is an essential conversation, and you are thoroughly equipped yes. We need to have it. We need to have it.
Thanks for having me, Jamie. I love talking to you. I'm so inspired by all the work that you're always doing, and I am honored to be here.
Girl, listen, tell the people, first of all, how can they keep up with Whittney and what she's got going on?
Cool. So my Instagram account is Meowscrap. So if you're on Instagram right now, then you see me. And it's Whittney. That's 2 T's, Whittney, Millsap, Millsap. And you can find me on Facebook as well. But I work at Dad's Garage, an improv theater in Atlanta, because we're on the internet right now. So maybe people are all over. We're in Atlanta. We are obviously closed right now for COVID, but we're doing a lot of online content, which Jamie also had a show on our Twitch channel. So it's twitch.tv/Dad's Garage ATL. And we have all kinds of content on there. On Friday nights, we do improvised soap opera. So we're still doing some like legitimate improv shows online. And then I'm teaching online improv classes too. So that's going really well. We're wrapping up this session.
Oh, yes.
And then check out the Dad's website because we'll be kicking off another session in August.
Yes, ma'am. Let them know. Let them know. Yeah. Cynthia said, please do this again. So awesome. Y'all, I always appreciate y'all who come through and watch and engage, because that's what it is. It's a conversation. And so thank you so much, Whittney, for coming through.
Can I also jump in? This is bothering me, and I need to say it. I misrepresented myself. This is the dumbest thing, but my integrity matters. I was like, I just got my HBO account. I mean, I'm just now diving into it. I've had it for years. And I feel like and do you know that during this whole conversation, it's been bugging me because I was like, I lied. I just lied to everyone, and I didn't.
Just a big old lie.
And so I was like, I cannot get off this without clarifying that. And that is the dumbest point. But to me, it's like, if you don't have your integrity, you don't have anything.
You know what? Listen, that was the best way that I could have ever imagined to wrap up today's episode.
You got to come in. You got to self-correct, right? That's what we're talking about. We're like evolving.
Self-correct.
Stuff going on. And I'm like, I don't think I represented that well. I totally made it sound not what it is. So anyways, HBO, I love you. Give me some free subscription.
That was amazing. Thank you so much for setting it all straight. Yeah. I think the audience appreciates that. Yeah. I'm so glad I got to watch live. Thank you, ladies. I can't wait to hear more. Whittney, I'm so serious. We're gonna have to do this again. And I think that conversation on toxic masculinity, I'm ready. Yeah. So let's do it. All right, y'all. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday.
I'm not gonna wave. Bye.
I was like, no waving. Bye. Oh wait, how do I? Oh no.
Are we still live? Do I log in?
I think we are. It's because we didn't wave. I don't know what I did, but I like clicked something on my computer and it shut things down.